www.facebook.com/DZRJ810am or on YouTube, channel RJ News.
Hello, Philippines, and welcome to the World News Jam right here on DZRJ and RJ TV. My name is Eric Lecain, and I am joined, as always, with Lolly Tolentino as we talk about stories going on around the world, things that have happened this week, things that our viewers have written in that they are interested in, that they would like to discuss. So, without further ado, Lolly, how was your week? How are you doing with these kind of new lockdowns that I keep hearing about?
Oh, well, it's a very challenging time. So with the new, I think 4 variants already spreading out.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going to happen. So we better be ready with that really lockdown.
Yeah.
I think we really have to do it. Really, if we can put it back to ECQ, at least 2 weeks, I think they should do it.
Yeah, so,
people.
Load up on your kilos of rice and your frozen chicken, because you may need it in the next couple of weeks, as we don't know what's going to happen, but there's a good chance that maybe the malls might be closing up again, maybe going back to the way things were back in March of last year. So we just don't know. So we're just waiting around for that. Now, Lolly, what kind of interesting topics has our viewers written in this week? Is there any interesting stuff going on in the week?
All right, as always, we have interesting questions from our viewers. Okay, let's start from Emma of Manila. Why Asian Americans are continuously being attacked in USA, and the latest in Atlanta, Georgia, 6 women. Is this a hate attack?
Yeah, this is a tough one. Lolly, for 100 years, we've been attacking and hurting people who are not like us, people that don't look like us. White people have attacked races of people forever. The Indians in Central America, the blacks in Africa, the Japanese concentration camps. This has been going on for a while. People of different colors, different facial features have always been the targets for some reason in America. Now, modern times, blacks and Hispanics are mostly in the news as far as the targets they have. That and there's so many different reasons that they are all, criminals, and they're here to steal our jobs, and they're going to get welfare and use our tax money, and they are rapists and robbers, and they're going to steal your wives. And now it's Asians. So now it seems to be geared toward or focused on the Asian people. So why all of a sudden are Asian people the focus? Now, there's been hate crimes against Asian people. I can point ones out every year for the last 10 years. But why recently, over the last couple of years, that in America, especially, these kind of crimes have been mounting up more and more. And just this week, there was a big one. In Atlanta, quite a few Asians were killed at some local spas, some Asian spas there in Atlanta. So, and a lot of it, kind of, I believe, comes down to the pandemic and the fact that the president before continually called this the, China virus. And people are blaming, if you're not going to blame yourself, you got to blame somebody else. So he didn't blame himself. He blamed China. It's just all China's fault.
Right.
China came up with this virus to attack his presidency, and they brought it to the United States to get at him. Even though the Chinese didn't actually bring it to the United States, actually it was the Europeans, the 4 million Europeans that came into the airport in New York City that actually turns out they brought the virus to the United States. However, he blames it all on the Chinese. So his people now are focusing on Asian people and how it is their fault that this has all happened to the economy and the reason that so many people have died.
Mm-hmm. And not only that, okay, yeah, on the case of this Atlanta, how do you call shootout? I'm not shootout, but
No, he walked
it's
in and just killed people.
yeah.
He bought a gun.
And
He bought a gun that day. He bought a gun that day, and then went in and shot people with the gun that he just bought.
Yeah, and well, though they claimed, they said that this guy is a sex addict or something like that. So I don't understand that part. But then oh, just last night, I saw this news also that there are Filipinos in California, a Filipina and a Filipino beaten up in California. So I mean, this hate crimes is like everywhere for Asian. It's not only because the one in Georgia are Korean descent, and now we're talking here about Filipinos in California, and this is not the only place because during the pandemic last year, a friend of mine who's a nurse in Texas has been a victim of this racism because of that's why she hated the former president because he kept on saying because he pointed that the Chinese so. They're referring to Asian people, not only the Chinese, but even us Filipinos.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, in general, in a lot of people's mind, all of you are Chinese. If you're Asian,
exactly.
you're Chinese. And the fact that, you brought up an interesting point before about the fact that this guy is claiming, oh, wait a minute, I didn't go in and kill them because they were Asian. I killed them because I am a sex addict and I was getting rid of the temptation of sex. And because, I mean, there's a couple reasons this might be. One, if it's deemed a hate crime, that carries a lot more weight in the United States. So he doesn't want to be charged with a hate crime. But also, you have to look at this. I mean, women of Asian descent in the United States are looked at as sometimes sex objects of, all the massage parlors, whatever, that are Asian. Well, those are Asian women, so they're there for sex. And a lot of, and it's unfortunate that is the stereotype that has been deemed sometimes on Asian women. And so not only do men harbor things against them, so do, white women. So I hear, all these ways and things that people against Asians being now spoken out, because before you may not like Asians, but you wouldn't speak out against them. But now it's okay. It's okay to speak out and say racist things about Asians and do things or spit on them and yell at them and tell them to go home. And a lot of these things now are okay to do.
That is really sad for that's why. Well, thank God I'm not in the U.S. now, and this is a big question now because it could be a threat for any Asian to go to America right now because of this racism, or you might encounter all this kind of trouble in the U.S. So not safe yet to travel to America, guys. Stay home.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that so unfortunate to say? I don't want to go to the United States because it's unsafe for me. I mean, it just seems, not only do we have problems with gun laws, which a guy has been able to buy a gun on the day and then go to a massage parlor and shoot, go to 3 different places and shoot a gun that he just bought. But also it's the fact that he was targeting Asian people, that he says he was targeting them because of sex, but he's still targeting Asian people. For whatever reason it is. Maybe, maybe it's not the fact that he believes that he's poor now because the Asian people brought a pandemic to their shores, but it's a whole nother reason. Whatever reason do you need?
Yeah, we really don't know. But, the thing that they're flaunting right now is the sex addiction of the guy, whatever it is. So anyway, let's move out of this topic because this is kind of,
makes me
not
angry.
A good topic actually.
It makes me mad.
I'm Asian myself. Okay. All right, let's go to Ronaldo Macadi. Okay. Can you explain the meaning of filibuster?
Okay, all right. So filibuster is in the news
You're
now.
American,
I love questions like this. Really in a nutshell, if you're a senator and you don't like something that's in a bill, and someone's trying to put in a law, you can delay it. And you can delay it by, for instance, okay, Lala, you and I want to paint the room white. And so you're like, well, why not red or black or green or yellow? And why is the paint can round and not square? Shouldn't it be square? Would it be? And why would you take the paint out of the can, take it away from its family of paint and put it on a wall far away from its other paints? How could you, and I could argue this, all the stupidest arguments I can think of, I can come up with, or you could come up with, not to paint the wall white. And this is kind of what it is, these endless things. You can talk about experts and all these kind of things just to delay a bill long enough that it will eventually get shelved, and it'll stay there until maybe in the next election, when maybe your party is now in power, and now it never has to be a law. So the filibuster was actually invented at the turn of the century, and they never thought it would actually be used this way. It was designed that if you are not in power, if you're in the Senate and your group, you're Republican or Democrat, and you're not in power, and there's a law that's coming up, you can debate that law. You can debate it as long as you want. And it takes 60% of the Senate in order to block your filibuster. Now, it wasn't really used so much. And then at some point, when the racial laws were being passed, some of the senators didn't want these equality roles for black people to be implemented. And so they would get up and they would filibuster. And they would filibuster for 24 hours. Strom Thurmond one time, he read the phone book. He got up and read the phone book, and then he went into a sauna before the filibuster to get rid of all the liquid in his body so he wouldn't have to go to the bathroom. And he stood up there and he just talked and talked and talked until, and delayed and delayed and delayed. So then the Senate was like, okay, all right, listen, here's what we're going to do. So we don't have to listen to all this. We'll just say we're going to filibuster, and then that'll be the filibuster, and then you got to get 60% to block it. Well, nobody really used that in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. Nobody used it. And then when Barack Obama became president, this guy, Mitch McConnell, figured out a way to use that new law in the filibuster to say on anything that Barack Obama would want to pass through, he could filibuster, even if it was things that he brought himself or that he agreed with himself. He would still filibuster because they wanted to cause as much problem to Barack Obama as they possibly could. And so it became a way of not letting any legislation come through. So now, what does democracy even mean anymore? Why even bring laws to the Senate? Because everything can be filibustered. So the reason that this is in the news right now is Biden wants to do away with this. He wants to not do away with the filibuster. He wants to do away with this crazy thing that says that you can do a filibuster without actually doing it, without actually standing up there and arguing the point. So he's saying we got to bring back the old way where you got to stand up there. If you're going to filibuster, then you got to stand up there for 6 hours or 8 hours and you got to talk. And if you're going to read the phone book, or you're going to talk about, how to make, banana nut muffins, and that's the way you're going to stall time, we're going to have that on video, and we're going to play that there's a reason why he's doing this. And this is, and people say, us, the Republicans. No, it's not. The Democrats did this too. When Trump was in power, the Democrats did it. They came in and they filibustered everything. So it's a bad precedent to have, and so that's why I think Joe Biden wants to change that law back to the way it was, so that we won't be stuck just doing nothing.
Okay, this is a kind of debate. Okay, is that
the Republicans calling you that they're mad about what I'm saying?
I don't know.
Is that
the phone? I've ignored it.
I think it. Maybe it's Mitch McConnell calling to say, no, that's not what I said. I filibuster what Eric is
ignore
the point that Eric is trying to make.
Okay. Actually, this is almost the same question from last year, but it's Pastor Ed asking, Pastor Ed from Pasig. Do you think Quad alliance of U.S., Australia, India, and Japan will be effective deterrent against China aggression moves in the Pacific region? Okay.
Yeah, okay. We talked about this last week, but this is a question that we are going to talk about for a while. This is not going to be the only time. This is going to come up again and again and again, because this Quad alliance is going to mean a lot, maybe, to the Philippines in whether this thing comes about or not. And in case you might have missed the show last week, the Quad alliance, it's Biden's administration. It's an idea to bring alliances between the United States and Australia and India and Japan. And what they want to try and do is, because China has built all these ships, they want to see if they can balance it out, because now China has the biggest navy in the world, and so they have the biggest military presence now on the sea, and so the United States wants to kind of balance that out to keep them in check, especially in the South China Sea and the Philippine Sea and the Indo Archipelago there surrounding all that area in the Pacific. So what's different this week, I think, is that there's more to this than just protecting the sea. And we had talked about technology and trade and all that kind of stuff. But there's more to it, I think. I think, before, the United States had all these alliances in Asia. They had an alliance with Korea. Korea allowed them to put their military on their land, build military bases. Well, Trump came in and said, all right, listen, if we're going to have our military bases there, you got to pay us, and you got to pay us a lot. And the Koreans were like, what? What we have to, wait a minute, you're not paying us? We have to pay you now? And so Trump said, well, if you're not going to pay, then we're going to fire 4,000 of your workers on our military base. So Korea was like, oh my God. And then he turned around and did the same thing to China. I mean, not China. In Japan, he said, okay, we have a military base on Japan. Okay, Japan, you need to pay us to have that military base there. And Japan was like, what? We made a deal. What do you mean we pay you? We made a deal. And so Biden has come in and he's smoothed things over, I think, with Korea and Japan now, kind of, sort of. But it kind of goes to the idea that, you can make a deal with the United States, and then the United States can break that deal based on a new administration that just comes in. A new administration comes in like, hey, we're not doing that. So nobody, is trusting the United States now. So I think Biden really wants to do this Quad alliance because he really wants to see if he can get United States back to being at the leader of the world, kind of the way they sort of were before. I mean, what do you think about? I mean, people are talking about Australia. This is going to be, and you can comment on this too. I mean, Australia is one of, China is their biggest importer exporter. I mean, they import more things from China than the United States and the UAE combined. So, is Australia going to join this alliance? And if they do, what's China going to say about it?
Yeah. Well, I think, the president of the U.S. administration, like I'm talking about Biden, I think he's pretty smart in doing this alliance, because I think, yeah, you're right. They need to, some kind of get together to not really to fight against China, but this is something good that they can do to improve the relationship that the former president has kind of broken down.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, Japan. I mean, where's Japan going to get its plastic trash cans from if they join this alliance and then China says we're not going to send you any more plastic trash cans? I mean, this is what is. People are calling this, and this is an interesting point that I thought about, that they're calling it the Asian NATO. Okay, this is not exactly the Asian NATO, because NATO is the European alliance with the United States to protect itself against what Russia might do, but they don't have any ties with Russia. They don't have a lot of stuff going on between. But Japan has huge ties with China, and India, even though India is like squabbling with China over this border that they have, they still have huge import-export deals going on with China. So that's the difference. That's why this is not like NATO. This is basically, he wants to put it together to protect the ocean, I think is what it really is. And China's not going to be happy about this, and are they going to retaliate? And will this build into some big giant thing? And is Australia and Japan and India ready to take this on? Are they ready
Well,
to, you know?
yeah, well, it probably all depends on the negotiation they're going to make. So we'll just hope for the best that, they can do something together. I
Yeah.
mean, it's better to have a strong alliance with with US.
Yeah.
I believe so. Okay.
Me too.
All right, Pastor Ed, let's wait and see again. Okay, let's go to Glenda of Pasay. What can you say about the face-off remask of Dr. Fauci and Rand Paul saying that masks are not theater? Well, still, Americans don't trust wearing masks.
I like how she said face off because it's all about
face
masks.
off. It's like the movie.
Yeah, I mean, oh my goodness, we're talking about this. Yeah, Americans still don't trust wearing masks. They're like, why do I need to wear a mask? Why what's the big deal? And, Senator Ron Paul, he tried this before. He tried to go up against Fauci in one of these things before, and about the herd immunity. Ron Paul was saying, well, we just need to let everybody get it. And then once everybody gets it, then we're done. Then we don't need to wear masks anymore. And Fauci was like, you idiot. Do you know what you're even saying? And Fauci just destroyed him. So I think he's still mad about that. So he came up with this thing that he said, people are already, if you're already infected, why do you need to wear a mask? Why, or if you've been vaccinated, why do you need to wear a mask? And Mr. Fauci, you have been vaccinated, yet you're wearing double masks. Isn't that theater? Are you just doing it just because, you're trying to build? And Dr. Fauci was like, no, that's not why I'm doing it. And here, let me explain why. And Rand Paul just kept talking over him. And finally, the time ran out. And then the lady was like, okay, what's the real thing, Dr. Fauci? And Dr. Fauci says, listen, you can get the infection. And then supposedly, I mean, that lasts for 6 months and that you're okay for 6 months. And you can get the vaccine. However, there are multiple different facets of this disease now. And we don't know how long that's going to last. We don't know if you had the original COVID and then you were exposed to the new version of the COVID. How long does that last? Or does it not last? Does it just start over again? And then do you spread the new version of it around? We don't know what the vaccine's effect is going to be on the new variants of the disease. And so even if you've had a vaccine at this point, by the fact that the variant is spreading all over the United States, continue to wear a mask.
Yeah.
And, so that, Ron Paul, he does it, he gets on TV because, he's looking at elections and things that's coming up, and he's trying to get himself some TV time. But you don't want to be arguing with Dr. Fauci because he will cut you down.
Oh yeah, and plus the guy he is a scientist. He is more knowledgeable than anybody about this kind of disease. Nobody can. For me, I don't think they can argue with Dr. Fauci about this issue. Well, just wear mask, Eric.
I have this argument still with my friends here in the Philippines. Why don't we just, once you get it, then you've had it, and you don't need it. You don't need to wear a mask anymore. And why don't we just let everybody get it? If we let everybody get it, then we'll be fine. Okay, if we let everybody get it, then that's true. We'll have herd immunity. Okay, so we just let people who are over 75 just get it in the chance that they're just going to die. I think, or possibly, other people. Yes, it's true that younger people get it and they get over it quicker. But do we just sacrifice this whole side of our society, our grandparents, even our parents sometimes, just because we don't want to deal with wearing a mask?
Wow. Can you tell me who are these people arguing with you?
White Americans.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised because this issue about Dr. Fauci and this Senator Paul is they're talking about Americans. So okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Sad for you Americans. All right, from Nitas of Manila. Well, Italy locked down again. Do you think other countries must follow? Surge of the COVID variant are everywhere. commonplace.
All right. Yeah. Here's what's going on in Italy. In the this past March 15th, I believe, Italy, more than half of the 20 regions of Italy are going into restrictions now because this new surge of the COVID variant is flying all over Italy, and they don't want to be in the same situation they were in last year. Right. They are still, they're still hovering around 100,000 deaths in Italy, and they don't want that to come back. And right. So they've deemed some places red zones where you cannot come out of your house unless you have to go to work or you're an essential worker. So you need to stay home. And they're locking down any essential places. Restaurants can only do delivery. And then there are other zones, the orange zones, where people can't leave their town and they can't leave their region. They have to stay there. Now on Easter, all of Italy is going to be a red zone over the Easter time because they really need to stop this. And the problem I think that scared them is the B117 is they are finding it all over Italy. They're not just finding it in certain parts. They're finding it all around, and they don't know how. They don't know how it's been spread. How did the B117 get all the way here, and how did it get over here? So I think that's part of, in Italy is they're worried. They're worried about the vaccine. They're worried what kind of effect the vaccine is going to have. They had 150,000 new infections last week, and then they had, I think it was 25,000 in a single day. On Friday, they had 26,000. I mean, it's just going up and up, and that's why they're doing this. And Philippines, I'm sure, is looking at Italy, going, we don't want to end up like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think Philippines are monitoring, every country. So, that's why we better be ready what will be the next move of the government here.
But the interesting thing I have to say about Italy is that, okay, the new variant is there, and the new variant's in Italy. Mm-hmm. What I think is interesting is that it's spreading so quickly, even though they've got so many things in place and they have the vaccine and so much, they're able to, have been able to curb the coronavirus there, and now all of a sudden it's back, and they're panicking. They're like, we okay, red zone here, red zone there, and you can't come out of your house.
Well, you know what? I think they're doing the right thing for putting every places to a red zone, because if that's the only way to control it, then maybe it's really the practical thing to do.
Maybe it's your choice.
This variant is already here in the Philippines, so that's why we're worried. The UK variant is here.
Yeah, and so is the Brazilian one, and so is the South African one, and so is the
we have 4 already.
Yeah.
We have the UK, South African, Brazilian, and the P.3, which is originally from here, but it's not yet confirmed. Yeah. But at least there are 4 already. Oh my God, this is scary. Okay. Now, let's go to Gina of Makati. What would be the impact of President Biden's answer to the interviewer that Putin is a killer? Do you think he knows this guy well? I mean, Putin, I think.
Yeah, I think, I think her question comes from the interview with George Stephanopoulos, good old George. He asked Joe Biden, George's good at asking questions. He asked him, do you think Putin is a killer? And Biden said, yeah, I do. And I mean, most Americans think Putin is a killer. Most Europeans think Putin is a killer. A lot of Russians think that Putin is a killer. It's just kind of the way he does business. He has, assassinated multiple journalists, people who have defected, people who have spoken out against him, people that live in other countries. He has sent his guys out to assassinate them. So, the fact that Biden would say this doesn't seem so much of a shock to me, because it's not like Putin did one thing. He's done this through his time as being the head of and here again, we also have to look at the election of 2016. Putin had a hand in what happened in 2016, and he also tried it again in 2020. And, they were able to stop him in 2020 because they were so ready for it. But in 2016, they weren't. And they had a huge hand in getting Trump elected. And, people so Russia has spoken out. They said, well, I guess Biden doesn't want to, make better relations with Russia. Well, I don't think that's true. But, they say, well, this is the first time that anything like this has happened. Okay, every president has said that Putin is involved in this and involved in it. The only president that has not said anything derogatory against Putin was Trump, who said everything great against him. And, even though all of the intelligence agencies in the United States said that, Putin did this and he did this and he had this person killed and he, feared the election, and Trump stood up in front of the world on television and said, I believe Putin. I don't believe any of the people from my own agencies in the United States. So, of course, all the other presidents have said something. They've all said something. They all continue to say stuff about it. So, I don't think it was that big a thing. And now Putin has come out and said, well, I can't believe that the U.S. president said this. However, I'm inviting him, I'm allowing him to have a conversation with me as long as we have it live on television so all the United States public can see. Okay, you don't think that the Biden people are smart enough to know what Putin's idea is? He wants to get...
Oh, yeah. Well, so Biden knows better, I guess.
They're not going to do this. They're not going to do this because Putin's going to get on TV. He's going to say his usual stuff, and he's good. If you've ever heard Putin talk, he's a master at being able to manipulate the media. So I think that I don't think Biden is going to do that in any way. And I think it's going to be, they had really hoped that they could get Trump elected and they couldn't. And now they're going to have to deal with what's next.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I can say here, because, Putin and Trump are BFFs.
Yeah.
Best friend forever.
They're best friend for, I would not be surprised. And, people are going to, I'm going out on a limb here, that if Trump gets convicted and he's looking at jail time, which a lot of people say that he might be based on a lot of stuff that he did before he was president. Not so much the stuff that he did during president, but a lot of the financial crimes that he committed before he was president, allegedly. That what he will do is he will get on a plane, not his own plane, because it turned out his own plane has been parked and is in disarray right now when one of the engines is broken. There was a whole story that came out about that. Yeah. But he'll get on a plane and he will fly to Russia, and Putin will allow him to stay in a hotel for the rest of his life there in Russia so he doesn't have to go to jail.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't want to break that relationship with Putin.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, all of this I'm saying kind of half as a joke, so people don't believe.
Yeah, half a joke, but half true.
Half joke, half true. Maybe, you never know. So anyway.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the Zenny of Las Piñas. President George W. Bush said he is still disturbed when he thinks about Capitol Hill insurrection. I feel good when a former leader still care and empathize with people, Americans for that matter. Your thought on this?
We always made fun of George Bush. He wasn't the smartest president we ever had. But since George Bush has been out of office, the fact that he's banded together with presidents that are in a different party and that he has spoken out against not his party, but the president, who is the head of the country, who is his party. And, he's spoken out against Trump, which is something I have to say that presidents don't do. Presidents don't speak out against current presidents. And so you would have to do a lot for George Bush, who has not been in the spotlight. After he was president, he just kind of left the spotlight, went and did his own thing. He hasn't been, but he came out and said that this turned his stomach, this insurrection, all this stuff. And the fact that he is saying that he can't believe that some of the leaders of our country are saying what they're saying they said what they said in order to incite this riot. And he's not talking about just Donald Trump. He's talking about some of the other guys that were up there, senators, who were doing the same thing to encourage these people to march on the Capitol. And I think what did he say in his speech? He calls these politicians, it's reckless behavior by the people that we voted into office. And they have no respect for our traditions, our institutions, and our law enforcement. What he's saying is that Trump and his cohorts, they took people's passion for the election and they turned it into violence.
I think he's very right there.
George Bush, he said something interesting a couple of years ago, which people all of a sudden now, they hated George Bush, but then they liked him because George Bush said, hey, you know what? Now this guy's president, I'm not looking so bad now, am I? And everybody thought it was kind of funny because George Bush is not known for his witty humor. But so far in this insurrection, I think 65 people have been formally federally charged in this, and more people are starting to be charged. And I think the interesting thing that's going to happen, or that's going to come out, I think that one of our listeners is going to ask us this maybe next week or the next week, is when the investigations are over and they find out that some political leaders helped the people in the insurrection, that they helped in the planning of this. Now, I'm not saying this is true. It hasn't really formally come out, but if it does, this is going to be an interesting twist on this whole thing. Or did people from the Senate conspire with the people who stormed the Capitol?
Whoa. Well, I think there's a lot of investigation ongoing, and the FBI they have a lot of information already, and they just want to come up with more details on the insurrection. And I think a lot of people will be charged, and they're going to find out later on, who are the people. Basically, people from the Republican side are part of this, I think. All right.
Yeah.
Let's go to Rendren of Santa Rosa, Laguna, our favorite friend. SWS recently published a poll that 65% of Filipinos said that it's dangerous to speak against the government. And yet, in the same survey, with also 65% Filipinos says that they can speak freely. Are those results contradictory? What do you think? That's a social weather station, the SWS survey.
Interesting. 6 out of 10 Filipinos think that if you speak out, that you can't speak out freely against the government. I'm assuming the Duterte administration is what they're talking about. Now, so why is this? Why do 6 out of 10 think that? I mean, could it be, the 19 journalists that have been assassinated since Duterte took in office? And the fact that the Philippines is still in the top 10 of the most dangerous places for journalists. Could that be, could that news be what the deciding factor is? Now, before you speak, let me just say, by the way, the 19 journalists that have died during the Duterte administration, there were just as many journalists, or a lot of journalists, that died during the Aquino administration and the Gloria administration. Okay, so, the interesting thing is the fact that people believe that they can also speak freely. So I can't get my head around how, are they talking to two different people? Or are they talking to the same people? Because it seems like they're saying two opposite things in the same survey.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this is really a crazy question actually that they have done. I mean, because when Red and I are talking about this, like, wow, my God, what is this? It's kind of I don't know, things that I don't know if this is something that they need to really talk about because basically, like, you're right, because in the past administration, I mean, all administration, they had a lot of cases of like journalists being killed. And it's not only in the Philippines, this is like all over. If you're a journalist and you're speaking against the government, something might happen. Maybe not the president's order, but maybe, other political allies of the president or whoever. So Now with this kind of crazy question, like, okay, you can speak freely, but you cannot speak. I mean, but like this is really a contradictory, statement or a survey of people. I don't know if they are the same people that they asked, but I'm sure no. So I believe that in this country we are free to say anything, right? But we are,
Not really.
and even our president is saying things, right? And some are funny. Because if we get used to the language of the president, I find it funny. I just laugh about it. Before I said, why is he saying that? He's the president. He should be, he should be like a statesman. But you know what? After how many years now, I get used to the president, the way he says things. Like, that's only a joke.
Yeah, and a lot of people would disagree with you highly about that.
Okay, so I don't care if they disagree with me.
Yeah, the fact that it's a joke, and they would say, well, you know what? It's not really a joke. He says it's a joke after the fact because the world all of a sudden is saying, how could the president of the Philippines say something like that? And they go, oh well, his spokesman comes out and says, oh well, it was a joke. And people are like, well, I don't think he meant it as a joke when he said it. So I think that's part of that. But this thing is kind of different. I mean, do you think in the Philippines now that, because we're on the radio, we're on television, that if you and I spoke out against the Duterte administration, do you think that would cause us any trouble?
Could be. It could be.
So you're in the 65% that believes that you can't speak out against the government without getting in trouble.
I don't really believe that survey that we cannot speak against the government. Okay, you can say anything about the government, and you know what? They don't even care. But if you are a well-known personality, that's a different question. That's a different thing. If I am nobody, who cares about what you said?
But
right?
When I asked you the question, you said, well, if I speak out against the government, yeah, I probably would get in trouble. So is it is it that, or is it what you said right after that?
Both.
Yeah. So this is, what the point that I'm trying to make is this survey is the fact that, Filipinos will say one thing 1 minute and then they go, oh, wait a minute, what did I just say? And then they'll turn around and say, oh, you know what? I think it's okay. I can speak freely, but if I speak out against the government, I'm going to get in trouble because, if you look at the Senate or you look at some of the people that have protested the president, they have gotten in a lot of trouble because of the things that they have said out against him and the retaliation that he has done against them. So if you look at that in the news every day, of course you're going to think that. You're going to think, well, I can't say something, or I'm going to be retaliated against either my neighbor or the president himself. But I think that I could speak freely. I could speak freely about many things, but maybe not the government, because I don't know who might say something, or will somebody say something to somebody else, and then now all of a sudden I'm in trouble, or my radio show is going to get canceled, something like that. Now, here on our show, we're fair. I think we're pretty fair about things.
Yeah.
We support Duterte on certain things that I think he has done good, especially as far as the pandemic goes. And there's certain things that I don't know why he says, and I comment about them. So we're pretty open on the show about it. We're not anti or not for. We're kind of in the middle. I just think it's an interesting question that Ren has had to bring on the show because it's touchy. Now, it's like how do we what do we say about this question without offending half of the people? Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. For the information of the public, of people listening or watching us, we are just we're basing our story from the facts that we know, and this is backed up by many proof, right, Eric? Because you are a good researcher, you know this. Yeah. And like I said, nobody can say that I'm against or for the president, because I'm just about the facts. And like I said, he's done a lot of great things. And when he does a great thing, we talk about it right here on the show. So it's just a very interesting, I think it's an interesting survey because it does bring up the discussion about, and this discussion is going on in other countries, such as Russia right now. where they're having the same issue where Navalny was poisoned, and so he left Russia to go to Germany to get treatment, and when he returned to Russia, they put him in jail for 2 years.
Yeah. So, okay, we will not be speaking against anybody here. We will just praise you and adore you.
We don't praise or adore anybody. If you do something good, we'll say it. If you do something bad, we'll say that too.
Yeah, right. All right. From John J. of Painta. COVID-19 variants is surging in NCR. What do you think is the cost, and what should Filipinos do?
All right. Okay. This is a very interesting question because, as I understand it, and you brought this up earlier in the show, this variant that they're talking about is not a variant of COVID-19. It's a variant of the variant. This is the third generation variant that they have seemed to have discovered here in the Philippines, and the problem is the N501Y, the mutation that is very, very contagious, and I think that, and this it also the E484K mutation, which it evades the immune system. So yes, it's true. I think we need to, here again, what the president said, this is a monster, this new variant. We need to be very concerned about this thing. Yes, there's going to be variants. This is the way viruses work. The virus will be until it can't find, its host anymore, and then it will change. It will change and adapt to the immune system that we're building up. So as we build up our immune system and we get our vaccines, it's going to adapt. The virus is going to adapt and it's going to change. And so I think that is one of the big things that we need to do. Now, can we lock down the Philippines and get rid of this, variant? I don't think Manila can take another lockdown because let me ask you this question, Lolly. So we lock down and we're able to save some people from dying. Yet there's going to be poor people that are going to be affected or even die. Children and young people and young adults from not having enough food or not having enough money. So there's a balance here. I mean, we can't solve the problem by making the problem worse. Now, here again, what's the right answer? Don't ask me, because I don't know. And I wouldn't even begin to want to be in the position of some of the people in the Philippine administration that have to make this decision, that are going to have to say, we got to close the malls. So what, this is the position that we're in right now. And so many scientists had said, this is what's going to happen. This is, eventually going to happen. And,
yes.
Can we do this without a lockdown? I don't know what the answer is.
Okay, based on the some friends that I spoke about this yesterday, because the surge that went, it went up to 7,999 yesterday, right? Now,
it's so funny.
It's so funny. The other days,
5,000, then 6,000, then 7,999, not 8,000, but 7,999.
Not 8,000, I'm missing one. So, but anyway, well, kidding aside, because the other day it's like 7,100 something, and then yesterday it's 7,999. So now, what are we going to do? So our discussion yesterday with some friends is that for us, I mean, we're just 10 talking about this. We are in favor of lockdown again, back to ECQ at least for 2 weeks. Okay, let's see what's going to happen. We survived last year. The ECQ last year is like started from 1 month. ECQ. Okay. Well, of course, very few cases, but now we are on the GCQ, but look at our numbers. It went up. It surged really, really high. So now what are we going to do? We don't want that to happen again. We want to go back to work, but government really has to do something about it. Octa research says, okay, for every individual who will get infected, there will be like 2 will be infected.
Of course.
And the 2 one will get another 2.
Yeah.
So this is like, I'm talking about like a networking thing, right? So okay, if you get 2, you will really multiply. So for me personally, and according to some of my friends yesterday, says that really the best thing to do really is lockdown again. I mean, total lockdown, at least 2 weeks. Okay. Now, yeah, they will complain. The government doesn't want to do it because they've been receiving a lot of complaints. Oh, we're hungry, no job, blah, blah, blah. Hey, we're used to it anyway, so why not try again for the second time? I mean, that this is just some Filipinos that has spoken yesterday about this issue.
Yeah, because right now they're going to have to weigh how many people could die from the virus versus how many people could die from the lockdown.
Right.
What's the balance there? How many? If you continue to let the variant spread, people who are over 75, they're going to be in jeopardy, and a lot of them are going to die. If you shut down everything and there's no place for people to make money to get food, then children are going to suffer and possibly die. So, and I know the Philippines, they deal with death from not having money. That's been going on for a long time. But this is just one of the things that they can't, and if they don't do this lockdown and the variant spreads, they don't have the vaccine yet. So by the time the vaccine gets here, is it going to work? Are the hospitals going to be flooded with patients?
Yes.
And then they can't get the vaccine out because the hospitals are overrun. There's just so many possible pathways that this thing could go. And to make the right decision now, this is going to be one of the most important decisions that they're going to have to make. Even though we're a year into this thing, that right now it's taken us down a path that we didn't think that we were going to go.
Yeah. All right, so there's a follow-up question on that before we add more information. Okay, from Ray of Quezon City. Do you think government should consider at least two weeks lockdown to see the effect if people don't go out? Since we don't have the vaccine yet, advice, comments, and suggestion, please. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's continuing the discussion, and the answer to the question, which is, should we go back to ECQ? And our best answer here on the show is we don't know, because there's so many possible ways that this thing could go. If you pick one, you're going to cause a problem with the other. If you pick the other, then you're going to cause a problem with the other. So, I mean, the good decision, I think, that Duterte and his people made was they stayed at GCQ. They didn't go ahead and open up everything full blast. Because, they saw, and they've been, of course, looking at other countries, that the new versions of the virus are starting to spread. And they are, if you looked, I think it was a couple of shows ago, we explained how the new variant works and how clever it is and how much better and more efficient it is than the original COVID-19. So, I mean, it's not like we're dealing with COVID-19. Now we're dealing with something totally different. And, the mask wearing thing, I mean, it's great that everybody's wearing masks. But if you're too afraid to go and get tested because you're so worried that you're going to be positive, and when they find out you're positive, they're going to take you away from your family and you're going to have to go in the hospital, and then your family's going to be on the hook for all this money. So you don't get tested, and you go home, and you've been wearing your mask and everything, but you live with 15 or 20 other relatives. And now they all have it, and then they go out, and then they give it to the people in the building, and then the people go out in the building, give it to the neighborhood, and the neighborhood goes out. Now all of a sudden the barangay has 4,000 cases, or the Philippines now has 4,000 cases. So this is how this is going.
Yeah, and okay, to add to that, okay, a friend of mine who is already, she's already almost 70 now. She got the COVID. I don't know what she got, the variant or whatever. I just heard it from last night. Okay, she doesn't want to tell that to everybody, but somebody told me. The reason for she doesn't want everybody to know what happened is because she doesn't want to be blamed for negligence. Okay. And the brother of my friend, she's taking something, and now he's not feeling well again. There's another person who is already, quarantined. Okay, there's so many, around us who are already infected. So what do you do? Okay, so I think all of us Filipinos here should really we just need to be smart in doing this. Okay, because I know we still know some people who are partying. I think they better stop partying right now. Okay, because this is the variant is very aggressive, and they can reach, anybody for that matter. Who cares? Whatever your status in life, how much money you have, you don't have money or anything, you can get this virus. So better be careful. I am getting pissed off when I hear something who is not following the basic protocol.
Yeah, this point that you made about the people, I don't want to get tested because then it's going to be my fault. I'm going to be blamed for it. You know, if you're in your house and you find that you have it, and then all of a sudden 5 other people in your house have it, they could have gotten it from anywhere. You don't know how this thing is spread. Yeah, you could have breathed on them. You could have touched something. They could have touched it. They could have given it to you. The way this thing works, and everybody, it's different. The way it works in some people is different. It could have been you got sick first, yet they had it first. So, you know, and let me just, you know, go on about, just add to the thing that you were saying. People keep saying, well, you know what, you could die anyway. You could die from a car wreck, and you could die from a coconut falling on your head. And then, you know, so this is just another way to die. But it's not exactly another way to die, because if you go out and you get in a car wreck, okay, that's an accident. But being in that car wreck does not also kill your grandparents.
Right.
Getting hit with a coconut, you know, doesn't, you know, all of a sudden give, you know, everybody in your house hitting their head with a coconut. It's a different thing. We are able to prevent this. Of course, you know, there is a way to prevent this. The way to prevent this is everybody go home and never come out again. Okay, then nobody will get it. You know, just, you know, everybody, we will bring food to you and put it on your doorstep, and nobody ever come out for a year. Okay, then that's it. That would fix everything. We can't do that. We can't do that. So, you know, this is how we're going to have to do it. People can't be afraid to go get tested. That is the number one thing. Now, Lolly, do you think 7,999 people got their 7,999 cases in the Philippines? No, there were not. There were probably closer to 15,000 or 20,000. We don't know. That's only the number of people that got tested. So
yeah, exactly.
I think this thing is spreading all over. You know, it's true. It's not going to kill 95% of the people. But we have to think about the 5% that it will. And those are the people that we're trying to protect.
Well, like I said, and some of my friends says, you know, we are okay with another lockdown, because if this is the only way to stop it, let's do it. Because, you know, we want this economy to, you know, back to the old ways, right? I mean, you know, where we used to go anytime, go to the mall, go to beaches and all that.
We'd go to the airport and get on a plane and fly anywhere we wanted to. I mean, we want that back.
Yeah, so that's why once and for all, let's do this again. We're used to it anyway. We had it, you know, we just celebrated the 1 year of lockdown. So what's new, right? If I don't have food anymore, Eric, send me some food so I will survive for the next 2 weeks.
You know
right?
what? That is such an interesting point that you made there, and this is very important. You know, because we're running down in time here, but to say that, you know what, we've done it already, and we know what to do. We're smarter now. We all understand. We all have packs of masks in our house. We have face shields in our house. Face shields are not now like you have to go out and find one, and they're 200 pesos. They're like freaking, you know, 15 pesos on the street. You can buy them really cheap now. We all know. We know we're smarter now. We know how to deal with this. And I think if we went back, now we know that if ECQ is coming, we know that we can get food, and we need to know what we need to do and what we need to get and how we need to hoard things to get us through the next 2 weeks. So I think that in that respect, by making that point, people can feel a little bit more at ease at this because we're used to it.
Yeah. Well, we can do it again. You know, let's you know, just follow what the government will say. You know, if you are not doing anything outside, don't go out. Just stay home. I mean, you know, you have your television, you have your phone, you can do your Netflix or whatever. So yeah.
I mean, in my last point, ladies and gentlemen, Netflix now is 149 pesos. So sit at home and watch Netflix. And so on that note there, I think there is a show that I need to be watching on Netflix. So I'm going to go watch that now because our show is over. Thank you, Lolly Tolentino, for your incredible insight that you bring us every week and the questions that you have from our viewers. Thank everybody for writing in this week. Everybody stay safe out there. Lolly, you stay safe. For all of us here at the World News Jam on DZRJ and I'm Eric Lecain, and with Lolly Tolentino, we will be back again next week to discuss your questions, things that are going on around the world. So please tune in again. Everybody stay safe out there, and we will see you then.